This episode has been brought to you by CompleteNutra.com, Whole Family Nutrition. Welcome to the Healthy and Family Show. Each episode features interviews with doctors, experts, and real moms, revealing their secrets on how to keep you and your whole family holistically healthy. Your host is David A. Stone, award-winning movie producer, Amazon best-selling author, certified moringa grower, and founder of CompleteNutra.com, Whole Family Nutrition, which is committed to providing the highest quality, science-backed, non-GMO, all-natural nutritional supplements to keep your whole family healthy. Here's David.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is David A. Stone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Healthy and Family Show. If you're watching this show, that means that you believe the health and wellness of your family should be top priority, but maybe you're a little bit confused with all the conflicting health advice out there. So our goal with this show is to simplify the facts and bring you the doctors, experts, and real moms to give you the tips and tactics that you can use and the secrets that you can use to make you and your whole family more holistically healthy. And so today I'm very excited because we are on episode 11. Can you believe that? And our guest for today is the famous Dr. Jessie Keener. I'm really excited to have her on the show again today. And today our whole episode is going to be on something that's very, very important. We're going to niche down on this episode and we're going to talk about vitamin D3 and K2 and the importance of those on our body and why they're important and what they really do to our body and the deficiencies that most people have in vitamin D3 and K2 and the advances and leaps and advances in clinical nutrition. So I'm excited to share this episode with you. And before we get into this episode, I just want to talk about CompleteNutra.com. You can go and check out Complete Essential 6. This is vitamin D3 and K2. This is what we're going to be talking about for this entire episode. And the reason I want to mention this product in particular is because if you go to CompleteNutra.com and you fill up your cart with all these incredible ingredients and put some Complete Essential 6 in your cart, whatever else you put in your cart, at checkout, there's a discount box. In that discount box, I want you to enter Dr. Keener 20, that's DrKeener 20, and you're gonna get 20% off your entire order. So, and that's even on sale items online. So if you got sale items online, that's still gonna take 20% off your entire order. So it's a really good deal. I think you should try everything out. Try it out, see how your body feels, because D3, we're not getting enough D from the sun. Very few people are getting enough vitamin D from the sun. And we shouldn't be getting sunburned, obviously, but we should definitely get sun. Now, if we're not getting a lot of sun and if we're not getting our vitamin D, we need to supplement. And K2 works in perfect synergy with vitamin D for many reasons, but one big reason is that it contributes to, it's called Essential 6, because it helps heart health, it helps bone health, it helps mental clarity, it helps blood circulate better throughout your body. And one of the reasons it does that is because the hardening of arteries begins with calcification in your veins and in your arteries. So calcium will start lining your arteries and make them not pliable anymore. It'll make them kind of rigid. And what happens with vitamin D3 and K2 is it actually helps that calcium that's locked up in your arteries, making them all rigid, and it helps that calcium transport where it belongs, into your bones. So it actually helps strengthen your bones while it's cleaning out your arteries. So this is something that's very, very important for just the base foundation functionality of our body, to protect our immune systems, to protect our brain, to protect our reproductive systems, sexual health, everything. So Essential 6, I would definitely recommend getting a bottle, trying it, and at checkout, like I said, in the discount box, enter Dr. Keener 20, that's DrKeener 20, and you get 20% off your entire order. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Let's really hear the science behind vitamin D3 and vitamin K2 and why we need it and why we're not getting it in the food that we eat. So welcome, Dr. Jessie Keener.
You know, what I'm finding I have to do, Dave, and I don't like it, but I'm having to scare people about this glyphosate gluten thing because they just don't get it. I don't know what they get, but until I say things like, no, I'm talking it can give you cancer, they don't actually have the right response.
Nobody hears what they don't hear what you're saying until they're ready to hear it. It's like the Matrix.
Correct.
Like people won't wake up until they're ready to wake up. And sometimes when we try to pull the plug, and when we start pulling the plug and opening the covers, man, it's Pandora's box. Makes you want to close the door sometimes.
Chaos,
like, well, I got to close that door.
Yeah, chaos is bound to happen. It's the question is, how do you ride the chaos?
Yeah, I think it's becoming aware, staying aware, knowing that being aware is not the problem. The problem is all the stuff that we're unaware of.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be aware of it.
So listen to this. I'm just going to read you this list. So I went to one of the better journals of clinical nutrition because that's where I get the really good stuff. And I'm going to just read you the list of what vitamin D3 with K2 can do for bodies. You ready? And then I'm going to tell you one more thing before we start the show. So, because I don't know if we'll get to talk about all of these individually, but I just want you to hear the list. Bone and musculoskeletal disorders, cardiovascular disorders, chronic pain, fractures and falls, kidney disorders, immune and inflammatory disorders, metabolic disorders, neurological disorders, prenatal health, psychological disorders, respiratory disorders, thyroid disorders. And the last one that I was reading was actually a clinical trial on cancer, colon cancer and vitamin D, and they found it to be helpful. That people that went into their cancer with higher levels of vitamin D had less mortality.
Wow. I was hearing a nurse talk about on the COVID stuff. She's like, she was talking about the atrocities being done, but she's like, I haven't ever been sick. She's like, I take my vitamin D. I wash my hands. I do the things I'm supposed to do. She's like, I'm always fine. Like she mentioned vitamin D.
Yeah. I don't think she's under this. I don't think nurses are under the same political and ethical, if not moral, legal predicament that the MDs are. The MDs literally cannot recommend anything they're not trained in. They just can't. They're not supposed to.
You know, it's also crazy. I was researching magazines and I was looking at the JAMA, right?
Yes,
I was looking at JAMA. Well, guess what I found? The rate card to advertise in JAMA. And it's expensive, and since they have an issue every week, if you want to be published in journal of the medical journals, all you got to do is pay for it.
Yeah.
You got to pay for a spot, and then you put whatever you want, and then you're published in a journal.
Well, let me just say this. If you put an article in any of these journals, it has to get peer reviewed before it appears in the thing. An advertisement is completely different. But if you actually publish a study that you ran, because that's what most of this is reading studies, which I happen to be really good at, so I can get through them really fast before I fall asleep because they're really boring. But it's all about it gets peer reviewed. So someone who's not you, who has no political or financial interest in you, runs through your work and reviews it and says, I agree, this is the same, this is what this is good material, or I disagree. So if you're in those journals, presumably, and again, money could solve this dilemma, but presumably you've been peer reviewed.
Got it. That's the idea, is that you're peer reviewed. That's the whole thing, is your peers accept this work. So I think, in the conversation today, I want to be right out there on the edge, as usual, and talk about, why doctors don't recommend vitamin D3 with K2. Not only do they not get that information in med school, they're sort of ethically bound not to. And we need to really get people on top of that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Crazy, right?
Yeah. So, let's just jump right in and talk about, first off, we need, our bodies need some things. Obviously, sunlight is the thing that gives most of the people vitamin D. And I'm not really sure on the science of that, so it'd be cool to explain.
We'll cover that,
why our body needs vitamin D. Mm-hmm. And then what happens if we don't have enough vitamin D. And then maybe we can add on, why is K2 synergistic to vitamin D? Yep. Cool.
We can do all that. Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay, so vitamin D is actually it's a pre-hormone. So we call it vitamin, but it's really a pre-hormone, and it's naturally produced when sunlight contacts our skin. So literally when sunlight contacts the skin, the body manufactures vitamin D, or this pre-hormone. A lot like the plants take the sunlight, and with that they can make oxygen. We make this pre-hormone, and that pre-hormone actually has a huge handle in how we handle calcium in the body. So everything that's calcium related, from our muscles to our skeletal system, our bones, our joints, even the kidneys, all of this is dependent on calcium working properly and in the right way. And vitamin D3, it turns out, after decades of study, is the key factor. So it's essential, and we don't manufacture it any other way except for when the sunlight contacts our skin. So that says a lot right there. That says that, how we were designed was to have a lot of time outside so we could manufacture our vitamin D. Now, that's great, but as decades went on and eons went by and cities were built and pollution got better and bigger, and now, gosh, we're spraying stuff in the sky to prevent global warming. We're really seeing a trend with Western civilization becoming vitamin D deficient. And we're going to talk about the dangers of the deficiency and all that in a little bit. But I just want to bring a second interesting point in, which is in the last 30 years, the emphasis, particularly in Western civilization, around sunscreen, it's through the roof. When I was a kid growing up, we had like two brands, Copper Tone, or I think it was called Swim and Surf or so, whatever. There was a generic always. But, there was no such hysteria as we have right now about the sun causing skin cancer. As it turns out, we've really been sold a bill of goods about this. It's really not accurate that normal sunlight exposures to healthy bodies causes any kind of cancer whatsoever. In fact, just the opposite. But what we have are very toxic bodies becoming more toxic all the time, and sometimes foolishly overexposing themselves to the sun. Sunburns, bad. A little suntan, good. A little daily suntanning, good. Daily sunburning, bad. So, there's just this range where the bodies are supposed to get this. It's built into our systems. The only other way we're going to get some vitamin D is going to be through food supplements, and that is just the truth about that. So this is the way God made us. God made us light dependent. I'm going to say that again. God made us light dependent for the health and the thrivability of our musculoskeletal system and all the other areas that vitamin D3 works. So you can see as we go through these different conversations, such as the ones we've been having, Dave, you can kind of see in all these different areas where we've really been sold a bill of goods. We've really been told wrong. We have been misschooled. Some people would say that's an absolute conspiracy. Other people would say, no, if Big Pharma's pushing for more chemicals to be sold, then you can see that would slant the research, and of course sunscreen would look really good. I don't use sunscreen. I put coconut oil on my skin, which acts as a natural sunscreen and kind of a natural sun healer, and I'm smart. I don't go out in the tropics when I was living in Mexico for hours and hours, but I don't think sunscreen's a good idea. Lately, last 3 years, they've seen research showing that when you put sunscreen on and go into swimming pools that are chlorinated, it literally activates those chemicals, making them even more carcinogenic. So we have, again, the big pharma, big chemistry industry of the United States, all of which goes back to the Rockefellers, of course, but we have these folks pushing these products, which not only don't really do a great job, and there's going to be a big cleanup on sunscreens coming, including what does an SPF 50 really mean, but we can see very clearly these types of instructions given to Western civilized folks like us in America or Australia or Canada, we're going to all en masse do the things we're told to do until we get enough people realizing, hey, wait, the emperor has no clothes. Oh gosh, if I put sunscreen on my 3-year-old and put him with his water wings in the swimming pool, I could be inadvertently creating cancer for him. Oh gosh, if I don't go outside because of Corona-19 and I stay in my house 24/7, I'm depriving myself of vitamin D3. So it's a very interesting thing when we start to understand how the body really works and what the body really needs to thrive. It just keeps going back to nature, right? It goes right back to, wow, we're light dependent, not artificial lights, but the very light that they're saying we need to protect ourselves from.
CompleteNutra.com, whole family nutrition.
Hi, Dr. Jessie Keener here, and we're going to talk today about Essential 6. The reason this is called Essential 6 is literally because it's essential to your basic well-being. Its main superstar is vitamin D3 coupled with its synergistic cofactor K2. Why are these so important? Because they really support immune function, but science also has found out that this combination really supports sexual reproductive health, cardiovascular health, and in many, many clinical trials in clinical nutrition, we've seen that even disease reversal, things like Parkinson's, MS, etc., in higher doses of vitamin D3 than your daily allowance. This is your daily amount, which is 5,000 IUs of D3 with the exact correct cofactors. And if you're fighting something, say you're coming down with a cold, or if I feel like I'm coming down with something, a little sore throat, I'll actually increase this to 3 times a day for a total of 15,000 IUs. Do that for a few days in a row to kind of jumpstart the immune system, get things moving on the right track right away. So the interesting thing is that our doctors, our medical doctors, the AMA, really don't study clinical nutrition. So they're not the ones to go to for this information. You really have to work with people that have been trained in clinical nutrition and have read the trials and understand why things like vitamin D with K2 are so important. So again, Essential 6, it works in 6 different directions of the body's functions. Everyone, mom, dad, kids above the age of 12, everyone needs this, college kids for sure. So get your Essential 6.
CompleteNutra.com, whole family nutrition.
So this stigma about the naturalists and the natural way, that was there from the beginning. It was inherent in the founding of the AMA. So when you have sort of a state of mind and a state of being in your makeup, in your foundation, literally, of course, all these years later, what is this now, 100 and some odd years later, that stigma is still there. No, we're going to stamp out all these natural guys and girls, and we're just doing our thing here. Fascinating.
Wow.
But that's why we need lots of us.
Yeah, the thing too is that just like you had mentioned in our 5G episode, is we're trained to not do anything until it's super urgent to do something. So I was like, what is it going to take for people to realize that 5G is bad for you? You're like, it's literally going to take a bird falling out of the sky next to a 5G tower, or it's
right
going to take
head,
someone talking underneath the 5G tower and their nose starts to bleed or their ears start to bleed.
Pretty much.
Then people can be like, oh my gosh, we should not have 5G.
We got to run for our lives.
Until then, everybody's like, whatever. And I think that we're trained to, just like in screenwriting, it's got to be a life and death situation. The preventative measures are not sexy. They're not urgent necessarily.
Not at all.
And
no glamour.
The cure, or the fixing the urgent matters. Like whenever we just wait till it's all the way urgent, and then we go in, and then we might need some surgery, we might need something else, or we might not. We might be able to fix it with clinical nutrition, but we're already in an urgent state. It's like if you go to the doctor, which happened to a friend of mine a few years ago. He go into the doctor, they told him he had lung cancer. He was 32. Immediately they tell you have cancer. What do they say? You're gonna die like next week. We gotta get in there now. We gotta give you chemo. We gotta get, they don't let you think. It's like they're not saying, okay, look, you have cancer. Let's take a week. Let's sit on this. Let's really determine some options on how we can move forward. No, they're like, let's give you rounds of chemo and radiation now before we really, and let's biopsy this and crack open your egg.
Let's open up that thing and get it spreading really fast.
Immediately they gave him a biopsy. He was 32, and immediately the cancer went and spread everywhere, all into his body, like in a day. And then they're like, oh gosh, now it's spread. So we gotta give you
really get in there.
give you chemo. Then they did, and he almost died. And then he came back and he had some strength again for another week. What did they do? Hit him with another round of chemo to finish it off.
Yep. It's unbelievable. The cancer industry is, the whole thing is really evil, and nothing in our cancer industry works. There's actually nothing that works. I mean, can you cut a tumor out and have the patient live and live well? Yes, you can. But the odds are against it, because the tumor happened for a reason. And if you cut it out and the patient heals and seems to be fine, the reason was never addressed. So there's going to be another tumor or another cancer somewhere else, and it's just going to keep on moving. Cancer is the natural way of telling the body that you either change now or forget it. Mm-hmm. But the change has to be 100%. It can't be a little change.
we just cut it out. Don't worry about changing.
Don't worry about changing. We're just going to cut that out.
Come back when it comes back.
Right. Yeah.
Because it will come back if we just cut it out and don't change anything else in our lifetime. Like cancer is a sign. Yeah,
cancer is a sign that you've really messed up. You've really neglected your body. I only saw one case where that wasn't true, and that was a Vietnam vet who was poisoned with Agent Orange. So his cancer was not him screwing up. That was a war, right? Every other cancer, it's the body saying, I can't take this anymore. And actually, making something into a tumor is a very intelligent way of protecting the rest of the body. So what the body does is it keeps trying to get your attention with different symptoms. You don't do anything. You don't change.
It's trying to extract waste, and it's not able to get rid of the waste.
And if you don't make any changes, then it's going to encapsulate that terrible thing, and put tissue around it, and maybe several of those, because it's trying to protect the rest of you. So cancer is actually the body's last-ditch effort to save your life. That's what cancer actually is. It's the last-ditch effort. So you're right. We have a very bad way of orienting with these tumors. Well, first we're going to biopsy it. Oh, great. So then anything in there is going to come out for sure.
Yeah.
Then the complete neglect that the body generated this for a reason. Like, that's off the table completely.
Yeah.
But in naturopathic medicine, and I'm sure other forms of natural medicine, we have to ask that question, like, all right, so how did this get here? Like, why is the body doing it like this? And
it's like you turn your hose on full blast, and then you kink the end of your hose, and you have tons of water pressure, and it's going through this hose, but it's not going anywhere. So all of a sudden, it pops a little, psst, and then it's like a little bubble comes out of the hose, because that's the only where the pressure can go. And so I feel that that's kind of like what's happening with cancer. It's like, but see, our body is smarter than that hose. Our body builds the protective layer around it. We call it a tumor, but
we make it wrong.
The reason it's there is because our waste, we're supposed to be getting rid, but we're overloaded with toxicity on every single level.
When the detox processes get bogged down, and with the toxicity of our chemicals and pesticides and fungicides and EMFs and glyphosate, cancer is inevitable. If you're not detoxifying, it's pretty much a good given that you're going to get cancer in our world today. And I would never have thought when I became a naturopath that I'd be able to say that sentence and mean it, but I mean it. If you don't have your detox processes going, you'll probably end up with cancer. That's just the truth. Yeah, and if you're not supplementing, you're probably going to end up with cancer.
I've also heard that all of our bodies actually have cancer present, but it doesn't get enacted necessarily unless we're really clogged up or too overloaded toxic. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. Which is why I'm not afraid of cancer.
Yeah, right. Because it's part
I really know how to detoxify.
It's the final protection layer. It's the final lever. Wow.
Yeah. So you can see how the AMA approach is just completely wrong.
Yeah.
They're looking at this thing as the cause, and no, that's the final symptom in years of stuff not working right. But again, the AMA doesn't detect for those things. We don't have AMA tests that look at, is your liver detoxifying properly? Do we have that information? Yes. Does the test exist? It actually does. Wow. Is it being run in the AMA? No, it's not. So they're not looking to see, is this body, or let me say it differently. They're not checking to make sure the body's detox processes are working well. They're not checking on that at all, which is good for them because then they'll get a lot of diseases to treat later. But if they actually use the science, which is globally available, to make sure the detox processes of the body were working well, then they wouldn't have a long-term patient.
And so when we're talking about D3&K2 with like maybe clearing the blood will flow a little bit better through your body, the veins and arteries will become a little more elastic. Is that helping? Is that helping with waste extraction too? I mean, is that helping?
Not directly, but indirectly. So there's a correlation, and it's a good one. So not a direct. In other words, having enough D3&K2 won't instantly cause cells to start opening up and draining out their toxins. However, having enough D3&K2 will reduce inflammation, which will actually get the cells to a state where they can open up and detoxify. Inflammation prevents detoxification. That's not really well known out there yet, but that's a good one for us to keep telling people over and over. If you're inflamed, there's no way you can detoxify properly.
Wow, so which is so many people.
Right, so many people. That's why D3&K2 is my number one supplement followed by omegas, because if you go down that pathway, you're really addressing the inflammation, you're addressing the elasticity, you're addressing the flow of the blood. So that's really critical. Moving is also critical. Moving
Definitely.
the body keeps the detox processes working.
Yeah, I mean, actually, when I hit the 1,000,000 steps this year, I had a little bit of kind of joint tenderness because I was walking every day and I hadn't done it ever before, and but I think, and it was just a little tenderness. It's better now. I did take a week off walking, and then came back, but I think that. The thing is, it's hard sometimes for people to stay on these regimens because it's more of a subtle feeling. It's a subtle. You're not necessarily feeling the change. And I think pharmaceutical companies really want to make sure that if you take a pill, you feel it. Yeah,
that's a good point. The advertising is all there around that. You should get results, and there's so much different in today's world than it was even 50 years ago. So now you have to be disciplined. You have to take time out of everything else you do to go outside and move your body. You and I have talked about this before. How we evolved was work and play and eating and exercise. Everything was all one. You and I in our hunting gathering tribe would go down to the river and bathe and drink water and get water. And we'd haul our butts all the way back up to where our cave was. Then we'd go hunting and we'd go gathering. And so work and food were combined. Talk about leverage. We were very leveraged back in those days.
Holistic.
And now it's all isolated and separated, and there's no holism whatsoever. So it is very different. Feeling well is actually a foreign state for most people. Most people watching this show will actually have no idea what being well feels like. And it is subtle. And it is also profound. And it is sad. And then that's where we are.
And then we will convince ourselves that I'm just getting old. I'm just yeah. It's like, no, it's not supposed
our
to be.
medical model perpetuates that on every level. I remember when I turned 40, I started having trouble with my eyes. I could see that my reading was getting a little bit blurry. Went in, and the doctor came in after he did my exam. He came back in, he said, I just looked at your chart, and guess who just turned 40? And I said, I did. He goes, and guess who's losing her eyesight right on track, right on schedule. As soon as you turn 40, that's when it happens. So all these things are perpetuated. We're told over and over. It's normal for your eyesight to deteriorate as you go into 40. It's normal to have joint pain when you're 40. No, those are signs of imbalances. It's not normal at all. But our culture just keeps hypnotizing us. Yeah, of course, if you're 60, you should have trouble keeping your weight down, Jessie. Yeah, of course, you're 62 now. You probably can't keep up. But that's not really accurate. It's just what we're taught and what we're told. And it reminds me of the old story of the woman that asked her mother about the roast, and the mom always cut the roast in half and put it in the oven, and the woman's on the phone with the mom. She's like, okay, so I'm just kind of confused here because I looked at this other recipe and they don't cut the roast in half. And the mom laughs and goes, honey, I cut the roast in half because our oven was so darn small. But the girl grew up thinking that the way you make a roast beef is you cut it in half.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a lot of that going on.
We're mistaken things like that we think. Yeah, exactly.
So we have to question things, and we have to try things, and we have to run experiments, and we have to just try something new and try something different, because a lot of the old is being outgrown. A lot of the old, I don't have to do anything. I can just expect to live to my 80s and be fine. No, that's gone.
And
Nobody
trying
can expect
to outrun or outsmart nature or our bodies is just not the right thing to do. We need a partner with nature and our bodies.
She always wins.
Yep.
So I love that we've had this conversation, because I think we've covered some really great stuff, and I can't wait to do another show with you, Dave, because our topics are always good.
I think the next topic that's really coming to me, I mean, at some point we could talk about moringa, but really I think moringa is a piece that can help a lot of these topics we're talking about. So I like the overarching big ones. And one of the things that I think is becoming so prevalent, and a lot of people don't really know what it is, and I necessarily didn't quite know what it is, I think I need a lot more illumination, is metabolic disease.
Ooh,
that's
I can do that one.
big one that I think we need to hit on, because I've been hearing it being talked about a few places, but really not a lot.
So do you mean metabolic syndrome?
Metabolic syndrome.
Yeah, I'm actually expert in that. I was very blessed. I met a scientist years ago who was a genius in this category. So he taught me some tricks. So that will be a great show.
Cool.
It'll also be a show, I think, that helps an enormous amount of people because this is a very serious issue in America. 70% of our population right now is metabolic intolerant. So we got to do that show.
Let's do it. And I don't think a lot of people know that they are in metabolic syndrome. Is that
No,
true
they
too?
don't, but we can help them get the pointers on that. We can also teach them how they can reverse that. Even if their mom had diabetes and dad had heart disease, it's often that we can reverse that using clinical nutrition and just smart eating. There's definitely a 1-2 punch in reversing it, and we'll get into the details of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessie.
Yeah.
This was so much fun.
You're so welcome. Such a pleasure, Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for the Healthy and Family Show. Visit our website at healthyandfamily.com. That's healthyandfamily.com to see what all the other doctors, experts, and real moms have to say about keeping your whole family healthy. This episode has been brought to you by CompleteNutro.com, Whole Family Nutrition, and aired on the Goldstone Network. People, Planet, Future.